So can you run a marathon with asthma? Can you really run 26.2 miles without using your inhaler? Well, the simple answer, yes. With the right training, good food, breathing techniques, and strengthening your lungs, you will have the tools you need to go from 0 miles to 26.2, even if you have asthma. And many kids and adults have been able to do this in their lives. I personally was told when I was 4 years old that I should never be a runner. And at that time, I didn't really care. Running wasn't fun for me at 4 years old unless it was after a soccer ball. I was told I should never play soccer. Fast forward 30 years, and this past weekend, I ran 2 marathons in 3 days and 15 miles in between. Yes, I ran almost 70 miles in 3 days, and I didn't use my inhaler. And today I'm going to distill down my 4-step process to going from 0 to marathon, even if you have asthma. And it all starts with something me and my friends call progressive overload. Fancy word, simple meaning. What this basically means is over time, you're going to do more. From an asthma perspective, this means that you are going to challenge your lungs a little more over time. Progressively overloading or increasing what your body can do. You are progressively strengthening your lungs. And you can do this many different ways. When I was a kid, I did this on the soccer field. I went from having to use an inhaler before, during, and after soccer games to not having to use it at all. I did this with guidance from a healthcare professional that had alternative methods for asthma management, and I highly recommend that you consult with your healthcare professional to make sure that everything that you're doing is serving your body powerfully and keeping you safe. I have a disclaimer in the show notes and in the description below this video on YouTube. How I strengthen my lungs is I started by not using my inhaler before a game. I would let my lungs build endurance. And when I started feeling the wheezing, that's when I would take my inhaler. Well, after doing this for long enough, I went from only being able to last 5 to 10 minutes without my inhaler all the way up through a full soccer game. And I've done the same thing with running over the years, increasing mileage. One of my heroes, David Goggins, talks about in his books that he did actually go from no marathon to marathon overnight. He also had some baseline endurance that empowered him to be able to take the 26.2 mile impact on his lungs and his body. I don't recommend that you go from 0 to marathon overnight. I did not go from 0 to 100-mile weeks overnight. It actually has taken me a number of years, and my most recent race, I am running at least 66 plus miles. And more realistically, I'm going to get into the 70-mile range at a time. That has taken years of progressive overload, years of training my lungs and increasing my mileage. Does that mean it's going to take you years to train for a marathon? No. You can do it this year. Like me, when I ran my first marathon, you may have never ran more than 4 or 5 miles before. Great. I didn't either. And in an 18-week progressive overload program, I went from never running double-digit mileage to completing my first marathon. Now, that first marathon took me 6.5 hours, and I walked about 10 miles of it, And you may walk 10 miles or more of your first marathon too. And that's okay, because the next marathon you do, you're going to set a personal best and be even more powerful. Progressive overload is the first step. The second step has to do with the science of asthma, and it is inflammation management. Yet again, another big word or words, very simple concept. Inflammation is created by different things. It can be different things we eat. It can be different factors in our environment. It could be dust. It could be smoke. It could be dairy. It could be mold in the environment. Asthma is fueled by inflammation. The more inflammation, the more likely you are to have an asthma attack. The key to inflammation management is twofold. Very simple. Increase anti-inflammatory substances or food and environmental factors, and decrease inflammatory food, environmental factors. I highly recommend you do both of these things to get results even faster. By increasing anti-inflammatory food, that means eating superfoods, like I talk about in my episode all about superfoods all asthmatics should try. Chia seeds, blueberries, greens, cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower and broccoli. It has been shown that eating foods that decrease inflammation in your body reduces asthma symptoms drastically. And by decreasing the amount of inflammatory foods and environmental factors in your body, reduces asthma symptoms even more. So by avoiding the fast food or decreasing how often you eat it, in addition to eating broccoli and blueberries and these amazing anti-inflammatory foods, works together to improve your asthma symptoms. Works together to power your body towards your 26.2 mile finish line. This is why we do these things. Avoiding training when it's smoky out. Avoiding training in areas that cause outdoor allergies. The time of year when your outdoor allergies flare up may not be the best time to train for your marathon. Number 3, the training program itself. For your first marathon, I recommend at least an 18-week program. Walk as often as possible. I highly recommend daily. It's going to be around the house, getting up more mindfully while watching TV, playing video games, spending time with your family. You're also going to need to run at least 3 times a week. 3 times is enough. If you want to be an overachiever, go up to 5. I currently run 6 times a week and take 1 day off. 3 to 5 times will get you to your 26.2 mile finish line. 3 times plus walking daily will get you there. You also need to do a long run every week. Basic training programs for integrating long runs is going to start with a long run of 4 miles, and you're going to go all the way up to 20 miles. And you're going to have weeks of build, weeks of rest. Build for 3 weeks, then rest 1. Build, rest. So what this could look like is your long run can be 4, 6, 8, and then 4. And then we have 8, 10, 12, 8. We keep building like that. I highly recommend that you use this principle and ask ChatGPT or your favorite AI tool to build an 18-week program for you. Making sure you're walking every day, running at least 3 times a week, and integrating long run. As we get closer to race day, we have something called a peak week. And for a marathon, peak week means 35 total miles that week. If you're running 7 days, 5 miles a day. 35 miles may sound like a lot now, but 16 weeks into a program, 2 weeks before the end of the program, or 2 weeks before your race, 2 weeks before race, your body's going to be able to handle 35 total miles. You've progressively overloaded, strengthened your lungs, and increased your mileage. And you've been walking daily, your body's going to be able to do this. Then taper for 2 weeks. From 35 miles in a week to dropping to 20, and then dropping to 5 to 10 the week of race day. Now, let's talk about race day. This is number 4. We've put in the work, progressively overloaded, decreased inflammation, fueled our body. We've gone through our training program. Here's what race day should look like. You want to have a great night's sleep, 8 hours plus of sleep. And focus on getting really good sleep the entire week. This promotes recovery and healing in your body. Helps keep your lungs strong, your body's powerful. You're going to want to eat a powerful breakfast. You're going to want to have a combination of carbs and anti-inflammatory foods. I can't have bread with peanut butter, the traditional thing that people talk about having on race day. Instead, I eat either oatmeal. I love smoothies. In my oatmeal and smoothies, I'll make sure that I'm getting blueberries, very powerful for our bodies, chia seeds, hemp seeds, etc. I have a whole podcast episode about the best superfoods for asthmatics. I highly recommend you check that out. If you want something that has carbs, because you're going to need carbs as energy on race day, you want anti-inflammatory foods. Avoid foods that create inflammation. For me, that means avoiding dairy. For a lot of people, that may mean avoiding dairy. You also want to just fuel yourself with powerful sugars from blueberries and other fruits, not necessarily processed sugar. I remember when I was a kid and I played soccer, we'd have orange slices at halftime. In 2024, I ate pears like crazy near the end of my ultra race that empowered me to win that race. Natural fruits are so good for you, especially on race day. You also want to look at having hydration with you and drinking tons and tons of water. When looking at hydration though, depending on how far you're running. So if you're running a marathon, you may not be used to how your body's going to react when you get to the upper miles, even if you've completed your training program and you've done your 20-mile run. So what you want to do is make sure that you have hydration with electrolytes. And sometimes this will come into play with marathons. It definitely came into play with my 100K in 2024. I cramped up at mile 37 because it was a really hot day. I was drinking a ton of water and having a ton of electrolytes, my liquid IV electrolytes. And I still cramped up because I wasn't getting enough salt. So I added salt to my Camelbacks moving forward. This year I'm training like that. And for my races, I add salt in addition to electrolytes. You want to stay hydrated. You also want to have some support there. Family, friends, people that can support you. You're going to want to bring food. Even though organized races typically have food, it's not necessarily the healthiest food. So you're going to want to bring something of your own to keep you fueled that isn't going to create inflammation in your system. My fiance will actually make these homemade power bars for me that don't have very much sugar, but they're very powerful with different seeds, some carbs, natural sugar from honey, some sun butter. Really good for me during the race. Maybe pretzels, and still go to the aid stations and fuel up with whatever the healthiest thing they have. Maybe it's a banana, maybe it's an orange. For me, bananas can create some inflammation, so I try to avoid bananas during racing, but maybe it doesn't create inflammation for you. And the simplest way to tell if it creates inflammation is, does it make you more mucousy? Does it have an impact negatively on your asthma? And then the last thing and most important thing is bring your inhaler. Remember, even if we've built up our lungs so that they're strong enough to take us through the entire race without using our inhaler, doesn't mean we shouldn't always have our inhaler with us. Always want it with us no matter what. And bring anything else that your healthcare professional has prescribed to you to keep you safe. Always check with your healthcare professional. If you're looking to run your first marathon, I highly recommend you consult with a doctor, your healthcare professional, make sure it's safe for you. And if you want to work with me a little more directly, I have my free Healthy Living Guide linked in the description below this video. I go through my 3 pillars of healthy living in this guide: movement, tracking, and accountability, which pair great with marathon training. It's going to take you less than 2 minutes to digest this guide and start integrating it into your life today. I highly recommend you grab your free guide. It empowered me to lose 40 pounds, keep it off, and become an elite athlete with asthma, completing not only marathons, but ultra races of 100 kilometers plus, which is 62 plus miles. You can grab in the show notes, or it's linked in the YouTube description below, or go to athletewithasthma.com/healthy-living-guide to grab your copy. I'll see you in the next one.